You know that feeling, right? That fiery kick in your food? For some of us, it's just pure pleasure. And for others, it's pure pain. But have you ever really stopped to think about it? Why is it that something that feels like it's literally burning you can also be so incredibly mouth-wateringly delicious? Well, today, we're going to unlock the secret science behind it all. Okay, so take a look at this. This is basically what your brain thinks is happening inside your mouth when you bite into a super hot chili pepper. It's just pure, scorching fire. But here's the wild part, the central mystery we're diving into. There's no actual fire. Your food isn't physically hot at all. So why on earth does your body react like you just took a big swig of molten lava? That is the big question, isn't it? And that's exactly what we're going to figure out. We're going to peel back the layers on this amazing biological magic trick. We'll look at the tiny molecules that cause the burn, all the way to the ancient evolutionary reasons why plants decided to create these little chemical weapons in the first place. So here's our roadmap. First, we're going to tackle that weird paradox of painful pleasure. Then we'll meet the actual chemical culprits behind the heat. After that, we'll find out how they manage to trigger your body's own fire alarm system. We'll ask why this stuff even exists, weigh the pros and cons for your health, and finally, we'll explore the whole amazing spectrum of spice. It's going to be fun. All right, let's just start with this puzzle. You think about it, from Mexico to Thailand, from India to Hungary, cultures all over the globe absolutely love the burn. It's a feeling of pain, technically, yet we actively go looking for it. This isn't just about taste. No, it's something way more complex and way more interesting. And this right here, this is a game changer. You see, on your tongue you've got receptors for the 5 basic tastes we all learned about: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and that savory one, umami. But notice what's not on that list: spicy. That's because it isn't a taste at all. It's a reaction, a sensation of pain and heat that gets triggered by specific chemical compounds. The scientific name for this is kinesthesia, and it's the exact same system that lets you feel the cool tingle of mint or the fizziness of a soda. So, to really get what kinesthesia is, we have to meet the molecules that kick the whole thing off. Think of these as the little agents of chaos, the natural compounds that give different foods their own unique, fiery personalities. So first up, we have the undisputed king of heat, the rock star of the spicy world, capsaicin. This is the stuff that gives chili peppers their punch. It's in everything from a sweet bell pepper, which has practically 0, all the way up to those terrifying Carolina Reapers. Capsaicin is famous for that intense, powerful, and, long-lingering burn. Now next up is piperine. And if you've ever thought to yourself, the heat from black pepper feels really different from a chili, well, you are 100% right. Piperine is the pungent compound in black peppercorns, and it gives you a much slower, more gradual heat that kind of builds over time. It's less of a sudden explosion and more of a warm, spreading glow. And then there's this one. Try saying this 3 times fast. Allyl isocyanate. This guy is a totally different beast. It's what's called a volatile compound, which basically means it turns into a gas really easily. And that is why the heat from wasabi or horseradish doesn't just hit your tongue, bam! It shoots right up into your sinuses with this sharp, eye-watering, but surprisingly fast-fading kick. So the main takeaway here is that spicy is not just one thing. This table lays it out beautifully. You've got that intense, long-lasting burn from capsaicin and chilies. You have the slow build of piperine and black pepper, the sharp up-your-nose rush from wasabi, that pungent bite from allicin and raw garlic, and of course that warm, zesty heat you get from gingerol in fresh ginger. Every single one is a totally distinct experience. Okay, so we've met the molecules. Now it's time for the main event. How in the world do these tiny little compounds convince your brain that your mouth is literally on fire? The answer is hiding in a very special protein on your nerve cells that basically acts like a security guard. So, meet the hero of our story, the transient receptor potential vanilloid 1. Or, let's just call it TRPV1, much easier. Think of this receptor as your body's microscopic thermometer and pain sensor, all rolled into one. Its normal, everyday job is to warn you about actual danger, like when you sip coffee that's way too hot or you accidentally touch a hot stove. It is an absolutely crucial survival tool. So here is the brilliant, sneaky trick. First, a capsaicin molecule floats along and fits perfectly into that TRVP1 receptor, just like a key sliding into a lock.
This binding forces the receptor's little channel to pop open. When that happens, a flood of calcium ions rushes into the nerve cell. This sudden rush of ions is the alarm bell. It makes the nerve fire off an emergency signal straight to your brain, and the signal is identical to the one for real, actual heat. Your brain literally cannot tell the difference, so it just screams, "Fire!"
But here's the thing. This incredible molecular trick was not an accident. It is the result of a super ancient evolutionary arms race. So you have to ask, why would a plant go through all the trouble of evolving a molecule just to cause pain in animals? What's in it for the plant?
Well, the answer is all about survival, and it's a concept called Darwinian gastronomy. See, long before we had refrigerators, food spoiling was a massive threat to human survival. And it just so happens that a lot of these spicy compounds, like capsaicin and allicin, are fantastic antimicrobials. They can kill or at least slow down the growth of nasty bacteria and fungi. Spiciness, in other words, is a plant's personal chemical defense system.
And check this out. This is the theory in action. In warmer climates, right, where food is going to spoil way faster, the local food, the cuisines, evolved to use a lot more of these antibacterial spices. A research team at Cornell University found this super clear pattern. In a hot country like India, a whopping 80% of traditional recipes call for onion, which has that antimicrobial allicin. But then you go to colder Norway, where food spoilage is much less of a risk, and onions only show up in about 20% of recipes. This is a huge clue that our ancestors who developed a taste for these spices were probably healthier and had a real survival advantage.
So this brings us to a very practical question for all of us today. Is eating all this spicy food actually good for us, or is it bad? Now that we know the science behind it, let's look at the real-world effects it has on our bodies.
First off, let's solve that really common mystery. Why do you start sweating when you eat something super spicy? Well, when capsaicin triggers those TRPV1 receptors, your brain gets that powerful overheating signal we talked about. And in response, it immediately kicks on your body's built-in air conditioning system. Your blood vessels widen to release heat, and your sweat glands just go into overdrive. This reaction has a name. It's called gustatory sweating, and it is a direct result of that brilliant molecular trick.
When you look at the bigger picture, it's really a mixed bag. There are some compelling benefits and some definite risks. On the plus side, huge studies have linked eating spicy food regularly to a longer lifespan and a lower risk of mortality. Research also suggests it can help lower your bad cholesterol and maybe even help with weight loss by giving your metabolism a little boost. But yeah, it is not for everybody. For some people, capsaicin can really irritate the stomach, make acid reflux worse, and cause, let's say, digestive issues. As with most things, it's all about balance and just listening to your own body.
And finally, let's get into the nuance. We know different molecules make us feel different things, but sensory scientists have actually gone and mapped these profiles. The data they've collected shows this fascinating spectrum of how we feel heat, where we feel it, and for how long. This chart really helps us break down what we even mean by spicy. As you can see, the people in the study reported that mustard and horseradish gave them a massive sinus sensation. That's the blue bar, which was almost completely missing in chili peppers. But on the other hand, the chili extracts created a much stronger tingling feeling. This is real scientific proof of what we all kind of feel instinctively. Spicy is a really complex, multi-layered experience.
And these graphs are just fantastic for showing this. Let's focus on those blue lines. That's the horseradish and mustard. See how they just spike almost instantly? They hit their peak intensity in less than 2 minutes, and then they drop off just as fast. That's that quick, sharp sinus rush we were talking about. Now look at the red line for black pepper. It starts off way lower, and even after they stop eating at the 2-minute mark, the intensity keeps going up. It is a slow, creeping burn that lasts much, much longer.
This tongue map for black pepper shows that slow build perfectly. At the very beginning, the heat is pretty moderate. That's the green and blue. And it's mostly at the front and middle of the tongue. But look what happens at 2 minutes and then 4 minutes. The color shifts to orange and red, which means higher intensity. And the whole sensation has moved to the back of the throat. This is exactly why the heat from black pepper so often hits you after you've already swallowed.
So there you have it. From a tiny molecule tricking a single nerve receptor to an ancient evolutionary weapon to these incredibly complex sensory profiles of different spices, the science of the burn is just a wild ride. It's a feeling that isn't taste, but pain. It's a defense mechanism that we've turned into a global delicacy. And now that you know exactly what's happening in your mouth, well, I guess the only question left is, what will you be brave enough to try next?